chat for any questions and start our recording. Thank you so much, Ramona, for that. So just know that if you do ask questions, this will be recorded. We're going to pick which of the recordings is better to post later. But like I said, feel free to reach out to me if you have specific questions that maybe you think of later. I appreciate you all taking time to be here. Shauna, I didn't greet you, but thank you for joining us as well too. I'm looking forward to demonstrating TimelyCare for you all. So this is our new telehealth platform that is for students to receive mental health support. And I'm very excited about this because it expands services for students who are registered for at least one credit with UAS. And so my license as a counselor allows me to practice if the student is residing in the state of Alaska. And I know that not all of our students are residing in the state of Alaska. So I'm really grateful that this expands services for students outside of Alaska, as well as expands services for students in Alaska as well too. So this is not an either or. It's an and for a lot of students, as well as there's lots of great resources. So I'm going to be walking you through the different services that are offered through TimelyCare, as well as ensuring that we take a look at what it looks like for a student to be going through this platform. So I'm going to start sharing my screen in just a second so that we can look at this together. Okay. So hide this real quick. This is the landing page for TimelyCare. And this is what a student would see when they log in to access services and to start the process of getting connected. I will be posting the URL for TimelyCare, as well as posting some additional flyers that if you choose to print them off, you're welcome to hang them in your office or around campus if you feel so inclined. I think most of the place, I think Sitka, you've already probably gotten a lot of these and already posted them is my hope. But for anyone, if you're contacting from Ketchikan, I don't think we have anybody from Ketchikan at this point, but that'll be our next steps as well too. But like I said, this will be where students land. Students just need to have their alaska.edu account, and that part's really important, is making sure that it's the alaska.edu account that they're logging in. This links to their registration, and it is single sign-on capable, so that means that that's going to do that check of, are they registered for a class? They just need to be registered for a current semester or a future semester in order to access services. So this is a good option for students during the summertime. As long as they're registered for fall, they can access services throughout the summer as well too. With this demo, I'm going to go over just kind of briefly like the registration process, as well as, like I said, talk about all the different services. So with the registration process, students just need to provide their name, their birth date, and then their location. The location is really important because say they're out of state or they're traveling, then that will locate them to a provider who's licensed in the state that they're currently in, whether they're residing there for 3 days or, permanently. That's what TimelyCare does a great job of. So that expands their access to services. So I've already got it geared up so that we can look at this through the demo account that I've created. If anyone is interested in this demo account and having access to it, please email me later. This is something that I'm okay with providing information to practice with. If that's something that you want, just know that if you do the urgent counseling option, I will get a call. So please make sure that you're not going through all of the steps, but I'll show you where it kind of pauses and confirms, and we'll see that process. So just know that if you do want to make any demonstrations on your own, that is something that I'm happy to support. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to hit continue. Got my password saved. And so this is the initial place that students will see once they've registered. So that's after they've gone through adding their name and all of that information. And there's a few things that I want to point out about this page. So on the sidebar, we have all of the different options that students can access. We have community, which is a peer community. We have self-care, which is a series of videos, texts, social media posts that are focused on self-care. And then we have provider care, which includes Talk Now, which is urgent counseling or urgent emotional support, scheduled counseling, as well as health coaching. And so I'm going to go through all of those individually, but there's one more thing that I wanted to make sure that we talk a little bit about as well too. This request, and I'm going to move this real quick. This request help for basic needs is something that allows students that if they're having any difficulty with any of these options or other, and they can include in here, they can request assistance. And this is essentially as case management through TimelyCare. And this is something that a team of providers through TimelyCare will help them locate different things. So maybe they're having trouble with finance, or maybe they're having some food insecurity. We want to make sure we know about these things to help, because those are some of the basic building blocks that students need to have in place in order to focus on education needs. So someone from TimelyCare would reach out to the person and connect them. And if additional support is needed, they would contact me as well in this process. Pardon me. So this is something that I want to make sure that students know about that's available. This Get Care button essentially has some of these same options, the self-care as well as the provider care. And I'm going to walk you through provider care first so that we can look at those in more in depth. So this is the page that students will see when they start the process of getting care. They'll hit the next button. They will select where they're at. I'm traveling or living outside of the United States means that only the Talk Now option would be available to them. Or if they can get connected to somebody within who's licensed within their wherever they're traveling, that might be an option. But the urgent counseling will always be available to them. I'm going to click I'm in the United States because that's what we're trying to make sure that we have a good understanding of this process. You can see that there's a whole bunch of different states, even including American Samoa. We are going to select Alaska because I want to make sure that you all see the additional options for folks in Alaska. And then this is going to take us to the section where a student can choose which type of support they're needing. Like I said, Talk Now is that emotional urgent counseling. Health coaching, as well as scheduled counseling, are two other options within this. I want to take a moment to talk about some of the limits, so that you all understand some of that process. Talk Now and health coaching have unlimited amounts. Students can access these 24/7, 365 days for Talk Now. Health coaching is scheduled, but there's no visit limit. With scheduled counseling, there is a limit of 9 sessions per year. In addition, if they are living in Alaska, they can contact me for additional services. All of these services are no cost to students. This is something that we feel is really important for students to be able to access, and so we want to ensure that they have the ability to get support. If students meet limits, that is something that we take a look at and try to connect them to additional services if needed, or we can authorize additional sessions if needed. That's something that we talk individually with the student about, as well as the TimelyCare folks as well too. I'm going to pause for just a second and see if there is any questions or anything like that. Oh, I lost my share, sorry. I'll get back to my screen in just a second, but I just wanted to pause for a moment and see any questions at this point about TimelyCare. Okay, great. Ramona, if you can just give me a heads up if there are any questions that come up. I'll pause again once I get done with talking about scheduled counseling and things like that. So we'll go back into it. Can everybody see my screen still?
Yeah.
I think it's sharing correctly. Okay, great. The Talk Now service, I'm just going to click on that real quick so that we can walk through this. Students would then choose what they'd like to be seen for. So they could select one or more. We'll go with relationship issues, but we also have the option of touching on other if there are any additional things that come up. They would then click next and could choose phone call or video call. This platform is web-based as well as app-based. So video call could be through their phone. It could be through their webcam. They do ask for a good number to reach the student at, because if they're making a phone call or if they get disconnected because of poor connection, they want to make sure to have another option just in case. If the phone number that they're calling from is different than the one that they've registered, say they are with their friend and their friend's like, let's do this together, they could call that number then. We then hit next. And this is the confirmation. So if I was to hit confirm, that would mean that I would get a phone call within about 1 to 7 minutes, actually. The thing that I'm really excited about is that TimelyCare has a number of providers that are focused on just folks who've contracted with TimelyCare. If a student calls 988, the National Suicide and Crisis Line, that's a national number. So that means that anybody can call, and the wait time might be a little bit different. They'll still get served, they'll still get connected with someone, but it might be a little bit longer wait time. So TimelyCare really tries to decrease that amount of time that a person has to wait for emotional support. And so I'm really excited about that as a good resource for our students. And I want them to be utilizing that before it gets bad. So if it's, 11 o'clock at night and they don't want to wake up the RA, they have that option. I still encourage them to wake up the RA and to be connected to somebody on campus. But at the same time, sometimes students want another option. And so this might be a good option. There should be no cost for this. And so that is one thing that I want to make sure that I'm just reiterating, is that there's no cost for any kind of TimelyCare services. I'm going to hit back and go back to counseling so that we can take a look at that as well. This is the scheduled counseling. Again, there's 9 sessions per year. Similar looking, we want to know, or they want to know a little bit about what's happening. I'm going to say relationship issues. Same thing where they select a video call or a phone call. The next section is about providers, though. And so these are the 3 providers who are currently connected with students in Alaska. That does not mean that if a student was in New Hampshire, they would have probably different options. But these are the 3 additional providers beyond me that students can choose. And so I like to just demonstrate that this is what it looks like a student would see. They get a little bit of information about the provider. They get to see the diagnostic expertise. And they also get to see who this person's worked with before, who they feel competent working with. And so we're going to select Juliet, just so you can see. And then the next section is scheduling. And so there have been a couple questions about scheduling. And so what happens is a provider has control over that. So they open up their options based on their availability. And so usually it's about 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks at a time. And as we go into the next week, that would then open up 1 more week. You can see that today, Juliet has 2 options, a 2 p.m. and a 3 p.m. These are based on the time zone of where the person is at. So these would be in Alaska time. But it's something that you can see that there's a few options for a student, which I think is really important for students to have multiple options. I am going to not necessarily select anything because it's just going to go to that confirmation page again, so we can see has that. You can see that there's a confirmation, all of that. That would be something that a student would see. We don't want to confirm because we don't need an appointment with Juliet, but I just wanted to make sure that we went through the steps. And so this is consistent for a lot of the services that are scheduled or available through TimelyCare. So I'm going to hit cancel, and this is going to take us back to the home page. And then I'm going to pause again and see, are there any questions about services or anything related to TimelyCare at this point?
So Carrie, I just want to confirm, Because I thought I had heard something at convocation, the thing that for Alaska students, like there's still 9 sessions available, but in addition, they can also see you. Is that right? I thought it was either or.
So Akla, you're saying that 9 sessions through TimelyCare and 6 sessions through my office. Is that what you're confirming?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that's the case, and not that they have to choose.
Correct. Yes. So because of my license, I'm only able to serve students who are residing in the state of Alaska, but that means that students in the state of Alaska could do a combination of TimelyCare and my services. Students outside of the state of Alaska could access those 9 sessions through TimelyCare, or be connected to another provider in their state who's licensed in their state.
Great.
Thank you for asking that question. I think that that's one that I get a lot of what can students access? And so I think I have students tell me different information all the time in their understanding of it as well too, what they think that they can access or not. But the important part is if they do have questions, just make sure to direct them to me and I can clarify that. But they have access to services. That's the message that I really want to make sure students have, and they have lots of options. And so we can come up with a good plan for them to access mental health support. It's just a matter of reaching out and making sure to ask that question. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Christine. I'm glad I was able to answer that question for you. Any other ones before I go into some of the other services that are available to students? Okay, great. I'll pause again in a little bit. Oh, sorry. Majida just had something. Oh, okay. Thanks so much for letting us know that you might get kicked off. I appreciate that. I hope you join us back. Try to join back in. But I'll, like I said, this will be a recording, so you can always review it later too. So the last things that I wanted to make sure to go over, and then I want to also give more time for questions, is the community. And so this is a peer community. This is something that students can post on and access peer support as part of this process. And so it is text-based, but you can see that there's a whole bunch of different variety of things that are different experiences that students have. There's ways that folks can comment or like. There's a varied amount of things that might be really important for students to connect on. This is only students within the TimelyCare community, meaning that it could be folks in other states, other campuses. But another important thing is that this is monitored by TimelyCare employees. And so it's something that if there are any red flags, so for instance, someone might be talking about suicide, someone might be talking about hopelessness and helplessness, or a variety of other things, a person from TimelyCare, a provider, will connect with them and will start that process of helping them access care in a different way, because peer support is really important, and it's not something that can address some of those other important concerns. It's an important component, but not the only. So this is something that I really encourage students to look at and see. They're not alone in this process. There are folks who are, experiencing grief and loss. There are folks who may be going through toxic relationships, and maybe there are some information that other folks are sharing. So we can kind of see a little bit about how some of these folks have responded. And so it sounds like this person's gotten some sympathy in this process, but not alone. There's 2 other people who have connected with this person. So I just want to make sure that we know about the peer community, as well as that there's resources and support in that way. The last part that I'm going to spend a little bit of time on is self-care. And so this is a variety of different resources for students to address coping skills, or maybe addressing some specific experiences that they're having. There's 3 different sections. There's Journey, Discover, and All. These are just categorized a little bit differently. The journeys are a curated group of topics. So for instance, self-care for healthy relationships, which is the one that I'm going to click on. And it also has a certificate that students can receive once they've completed all of them. You can see that there's different symbols here, and these indicate different different types of media. So the play button is a video, the image is social media based, and then the lines are text based. So um, it's a variety of different options for students who might have different learning styles or different ways of approaching information. And they do a really good job of narrowing in on some very important things. For instance, the loving kindness meditation is a beautiful meditation that incorporates um, bringing in a variety of different ways of approaching people and then promoting out loving kindness in very specific ways. So I'm really interested in all of the topics that they have, and I think they've done a really good job of curating very specific coping skills that are useful. And so I've been very impressed with all of the information that they've provided. Most of the time, the topics incorporate a variety of different things. I've just queued this one up so you can see that this video is about 2.5 minutes. The yoga sometimes will be a little bit longer than that, but they walk through an entire topic. We looked at breakup yoga yesterday, and that was about a 10-minute video. But you can also see that the text is typically about a 1 to 2 minute read. Maybe less. But again, kind of just grounds folks in some of the important information. I'm going to go back and show you the Discover. These are, they included a just added, or they have topics based on yoga, meditation, study essentials, and then the all category is just kind of everything, and you can kind of sort through it in different categories. So sliders is a social media, videos, and articles, depending on how you'd like to filter. And so these are great resources for students anytime. I think that's one of the things that I like most about TimelyCare is there's a variety of things that are intentional, but also available at times when students need them most. And so I'm very excited to see how students interact with the TimelyCare platform and begin to utilize some of these resources. I'm going to switch back to Zoom for a second and pause my screen and see if there's any questions.
I saw that there was like a legal option, and I'm kind of curious as to what somebody would use that for.
Yeah, that's a really great question. Sometimes folks find themselves in need of legal services for a variety of different reasons, and it can be really costly to get an attorney. And so TimelyCare has some connections for free resources or legal advice, or may be able to provide some guidance in that process of how to connect with some of those free resources, which is a similar thing that I have access to as well for Alaska. But maybe even beyond that, if need be, I can do a bit more digging. And so with case management, sometimes it's not necessarily that they will pay for a lawyer, but it may be connecting with some of those free resources.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, it can come up with housing situations, like landlord-tenant law might be something that a person might need some legal advice on. It might be that there's a divorce happening or a variety of different reasons. One of the things that I've also been talking to folks about are staff resources. So technically staff or faculty who are taking a class can access TimelyCare. It is not going to kick someone out based on their employment status. That I think is really important as well too. And so one of the things that I've been making sure to let staff and faculty know are the variety of different resources available. For instance, like we have EAP services, which also include legal support or counseling services or a variety of other resources. And that's something that is available to staff and faculty. Staff and faculty also have insurance to provide counseling services if that's something that they need. And they can also access TimelyCare, and I encourage them that to utilize their other resources first if possible, but don't hesitate to utilize the urgent resources, or even, utilizing the yoga. If breakup yoga is something that is interesting to you, feel free to log on and utilize those services as well too. But just keep in mind that our intent for TimelyCare really is to provide a stopgap for some of the students who may not be able to access resources as well too. So that's just something to keep in mind, but also don't hesitate to utilize these services if they are something that are of interest to you, or are of need as well. Trying to think if there's any other questions that have come up a lot. I think that's kind of been the big one, but any other questions that y'all have? I'm aware we have about a minute left, and like I said, if it's something that you want to ask later, please feel free to. Oh yeah, Akli, I see your hand.
Yeah, just maybe I've been trying to multitask and do some menial thing, but how do they set up an account? Is it pretty easy just to like, do you set up your own password, or you just create an email? Or is it like a single security SSO?
That's a great question. Thank you so much. The initial page that we started on is where they start. And so they don't have to set up an email or password. That's all through single sign-on. It's all the same information that they would use to log into UA Online or Blackboard or any other resource through UAS. And so that's something that's really important for them to know, that they have to use that in order to make sure that that connection is made. The process of registering, though, takes maybe 1 to 2 minutes. They really only need their alaska.edu account, some information about their location, and that's about it. So it is something that just takes a real quick minute to do. I'm actually going to post some things in the chat real quick. These are different flyers that I've been providing to faculty and staff to utilize. And actually, it does make me remember one more thing that I wanted to mention. TimelyCare does offer a staff and faculty consultation line. And so you'll see in one of the resources that I posted, if I post them, that there's a phone number that staff and faculty can call. And how I'm approaching this is, please contact either myself or Damien first if you have a question about a student, or if you have a question about a conduct process or anything along those lines. Damien would be more conduct, I would be more care. But the TimelyCare staff and faculty line is something that I know that we have classes that are past 5 p.m. And so if there's a student that you're concerned about and it's past 5 p.m., feel free to reach out to TimelyCare. They can provide some information about care and ensure that that student gets support. I do ask that if you are reaching out to that line, to also submit a care team report, just summarizing your conversation with TimelyCare, so that if there's anything that we need to follow up on, we can connect with that student directly as well too. We may not be notified of your phone call from TimelyCare, so that's where that care team report comes into play. That can be really helpful for us to know. But these resources that I've posted are for you to have in your office or on campus if it's something that you feel comfortable posting. There's QR codes that students can scan, and it'll take them directly to TimelyCare's URL, and then they can get started from there. But it takes just a minute to get registered and get access, which I encourage students to do earlier rather than later. We don't want them to have a slowdown process if they need any support or resources. I'm noticing the time, and so I'm going to pause, see if there's any other questions. I appreciate y'all sticking with me, even though we're a little bit over time. But if you do need to leave, feel free to. I'll stay on for a couple minutes more to see if there's any other questions.
And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording while people
Thank you. Thank you, Ramona.